All right, let's get started. Hey there, we're so glad you could join us today. I'm Victor Hernandez, the marketing manager at Tammuz Family North America, and also one of the surrogacy consultants here. It's my pleasure to be with you today. And I hope to see many of you later on when you book your one-on-one consultations. Today's webinar will be about an hour long, and the goal is to provide you with general information about who Tammuz is and what we offer intended parents looking to fulfill their family, their dream of having a baby or babies through surrogacy. We refer to this process as a journey. This is because it is both literally and figuratively a journey. And as with any profound journey, it comes with ups and downs, and it takes a fair amount of time to complete and can be challenging at times, even very challenging. So before we continue, we ask that you mute your microphones, but feel free to ask questions in the chat as we progress through the webinar. We will aim to answer here the most commonly posed questions towards the end of our presentation. But if your question is not answered, use the QR code to schedule a free private consultation where we can go into more details and in depth about anything and everything you might want to take up. And we're happy to and delighted to schedule as many free follow-up consultations as you might need to obtain as a comprehensive sense as possible of what Tammuz Family really offers. Now, please allow me to introduce you to the other members of the Tammuz family here in our North America team. Sitting across from me is John Moses, Territory Manager of North America. Sineb Benani is also a case manager and here with us today. And Sebastian Hill is our case manager, and he is the chat arbiter, to be said. And although, unfortunately, he couldn't be with us today due to family matters, Derek Weaver, another one of our case managers, is depicted in the slide as well. So I'll let them all introduce themselves, and we'll begin with John.
Thank you, Victor, and welcome everyone who's joined us. We're really thrilled to have you here today. I'm John Moses. I'm the Territory Manager for Tammuz Family North America. I have been serving in that capacity now for over 5 years. I actually established the North American office for Tammuz, which is a global company. And at the time since establishing the office, it was just me in the beginning, and now I have this illustrious group helping me, helping parents, and I couldn't be more thrilled and honored to be doing the work that we do. I myself am an intended parent, or I should say a former intended parent. My husband and I have 2 kids through surrogacy with Tammuz. So we'll talk a little more about that later on, but I know quite distinctly what it's like to go through these journeys. And in any case, again, welcome. And I'll hand the floor to Zineb to introduce herself.
My name is Zineb Benami, and I've been with Tammuz Family North America since January. I'm originally from Morocco, and I speak French, Arabic, and English. I cover several territories such as Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, and Georgia, and Armenia. And I'm really looking forward to connecting with you and hopefully being part of your journey towards parenthood.
Perfect. And hi everybody, I am Sebastian Gill, and I have been working with Tammuz for almost 3 years. I'm originally from Venezuela, but now I live in North Carolina with the rest of the team. I am about to get my master's in social work, so very exciting times. And I'm currently working with the Mexico, Argentina, and Colombia territories. I'm very happy to be here.
All right. Thank you guys for introducing yourselves. In the course of this presentation, John and I will define gestational surrogacy, will outline the steps involved in a surrogacy journey, describe how Tammuz Family provides comprehensive support throughout the journey, list the many reasons why intended parents choose Tammuz, and we will also cover the highlights of our 6 locations globally where we administer journeys. And please make sure you stick around towards the end of the presentation so that you can meet John Liu, who is both a past and current intended parent with Tammuz Family. John has generously agreed to be with us and you today to share some of his experience and to give you a real firsthand sense of what it's like to be on a surrogacy journey with Tammuz. You may also recall in the registering for this event that another intended parent, Moo, was also planning on being here with us today, but unfortunately he had a death in the family and isn't able to participate this time around, but he'll be here with us at our next session in the fall. Now, what exactly is gestational surrogacy? For those of you that don't have this bit of background information, gestational surrogacy is a means by which intended parents, through an in vitro fertilization process, create embryos, which are then transferred into a gestational carrier or the surrogate, who gestates and delivers the resulting baby for the parents. The gestational carrier is truly just a carrier. She has neither a genetic nor a legal parental link to the baby she delivers for the intended parents. Now, who pursues gestational surrogacy and why? So, whether you are a single parent or a same-sex male or same-sex female couple, a heterosexual couple, and possibly in some cases facing fertility challenges, gestational surrogacy is a highly valued, legally supported, and medically sound way for parents to grow their families. And in most instances, their baby or babies will be genetically linked to either one or both of the intended parents. We offer gestational surrogacy services to as many people as possible, including intended parents living with HIV. Now, this process is highly complex, involving many parties, including the egg donors, your surrogate agencies, fertility clinics, and the legal teams. And they're all working carefully within the parameters of whatever local regulatory framework is in place to support the venture. We provide profound experience, expertise, and empathy to help intended parents navigate through this complexity. At the heart of our mission is a profound commitment to supporting parents throughout their surrogacy journey. In addition to being joyful and exciting, the journey can be both humbling and challenging, and in some instances, very challenging, even difficult. A good amount of it, and often on the medical level, is out of the parent's control. They must be very patient from the beginning to the very end. And we understand this deeply. We coordinate and arrange all of the essential components for the journey with care and sensitivity, informed through a genuine and abiding spirit of family. Our goal is to ensure that you feel as welcomed, comfortable, and included as possible throughout the process, allowing you to focus on what is truly important, preparing to welcome the newest member or members of your family. Now let's discuss what the journey itself is. The surrogacy journey at Tammuz Family starts with your reaching out to us. We're here to assist and support you along the many, many stages of having a baby through surrogacy. The initial consultation. At this stage, either yours truly or John, our territory manager, will meet with you to learn more about your goals and interests and to help begin aligning them with the particulars of whichever of our destinations tends to make the best fit for you. Among the many factors we take into account here are your budget, the estimated average length of the journey, the process by which you will obtain your parental rights once your baby is born, and the time it will take to do all of that, and the nature of your expected connection with the surrogate. We will also share more about who the primary medical and legal local partners will be at your preferred destination. And once you decide on which plan to pursue, at whatever destination you settle on, we're happy and willing to have as many free consultations with you to help you arrive at that all-important decision. We'll sign an agreement with you for our services, and you'll be formally embarked upon our journey. This starts with an introduction to your case manager, who will be your primary point of contact in our office for the entire journey, shepherding you through it from the beginning to the end and beyond. During the pre-pregnancy phase, which is the next phase here. We focus on gathering your required pre-fertilization medical and legal documents, including identity verification items like passport, criminal backgrounds, reports, and as relevant relationship status proof, for example, a marriage or a domestic partnership certificate, fertility status assessments, like for example, like a laboratory conducted semen analysis, and STI screening results. Upon receipt and approval of all the required pre-fertilization information, we schedule your sperm and or your egg donation visit to the clinic at your destination. Once all the relevant gametes are donated for your plan, we move on to the amazing, even the miraculous process of embryo creation through IVF or in vitro fertilization. Incidentally, yesterday, July 25th, was World IVF Day, which marks the day when the first baby born ever through IVF, Lewis Brown, in the UK, happened 47 years ago. A moment in history that has fundamentally and fabulously changed millions and millions of lives forever, including, of course, ours and yours. The most precise method that most clinics, including ours, use for IVF is the intracytoplasmic sperm injection, otherwise known as ICSI. This technique consists of isolating and injecting a single sperm into each available egg, which has brought embryology to a whole new level of accuracy and reliability. The fertilized eggs are then cultivated over the course of 5 to 6 days, at which point any eggs or blitocysts, early stage embryos that are deemed to be viable and sampled or pre-genetically tested for their chromosomal status and cryopreserved until they need to be thawed for an embryo transfer. Our clinic will only transfer embryos that are known or expected to be chromosomally normal, and this is important. The next big phase of the journey is surrogate matching. Expected for in the US, where the matching, except for in the US, I'm sorry, where the matching process tends more to occur in tandem with the IVF process, we begin looking for your surrogate only once it's verified through your embryo's pre-genetic or the PGT results, that we have the appropriate number of usable embryos for your plan. Now, the waiting period for matching with surrogates, which is predicated on supply and demand, vary and often fluctuate depending on the destination. This is one of the phases in the journey when parents need to be particularly patient. We can't and won't work with surrogates who are not highly medically and psychologically qualified to partner with you. Once we have a candidate with whom to match you, you will receive her detailed profile and decide whether she's someone you want to move forward with. In most of our destinations, this decision is preceded by a video call with the candidate, allowing already for a personal connection to grow between you and her, and fostering mutual understanding and respect before all might officially agree to match with each other. You're under no obligation to match with a candidate with whom you don't feel comfortable. By the time parents are meeting surrogates in most of our destinations, the candidates have already gone through all of the required and highly rigorous medical and psychological screenings to ensure there's suitability for caring your baby. So once officially matched, intended parents and surrogates sign a contract with each other, local to what's standard and honored at the destination for gestational surrogacy, for a gestational surrogacy agreement. This is done through the expert guidance and assistance of our local legal team, the cost of which is included in our plans. Once the contract is signed, the surrogate begins her preparations for the embryo transfer. The process takes anywhere from 2 to 4 months, although sometimes it can go even a bit longer than that. Again, patience is of the utmost importance. both here and throughout your journey. The transfer will occur at the clinic of your program's destination, which is where your embryos were created. The next stage is pregnancy, during which you'll receive regularly medical and procedural updates from your case manager about your progress. In some of our destinations, the USA, Colombia, and Argentina, you'll also be in regular contact with your surrogate, who will be a vital source of information for you. This is especially the case in the United States, where the surrogate becomes a primary source of information for you once she reaches the end of the first trimester. All of the surrogates are monitored by our clinics according to standard Western pregnancy protocols to ensure the health and safety of everyone involved, from ultrasound scans and reports to video meetups with the surrogate and the clinic staff at pivotal medical appointments. Each milestone of the gestational calendar brings you closer to the delivery of your baby. The journey culminates in the most extraordinary chapter, the birth of your child. Intended parents are expected to be at their destination in anticipation of the delivery by the 37th week of gestation. Important, we want the parents waiting for the babies, not the other way around. If you're having your babies outside of the US, Tammuz locals, dedicated medical staff, and legal team will be there to help you navigate not only the immediate postnatal care process, but also the exit process from the country, ensuring that you obtain your local parental rights, a birth certificate in Colombia and Argentina, a national passport, as efficiently and smoothly as possible. The core costs for this are also included with your programs. Anything and everything related to obtaining a US passport or a Canadian passport, however, is something that parents will need to take care of on their own. A fairly straightforward process in its own right, and one that can initially be initiated only once you have the baby's birth certificate, which our legal team will make sure to facilitate and obtain for you. All in all, parents in journeys outside of the US should anticipate being in the country anywhere from 5 to 8 weeks before they'll be in a position to return home with their baby. Do you have any questions about any of these steps? If so, feel free to ask them in the chat, and we'll address the most common ones during the Q&A part of today's presentation later on, or jot them down and we'll discuss them during the one-on-one consultation. You can book your consultation by simply scanning the QR code on the screen, selecting a time and a day that is convenient for you, and we'll privately discuss the details of your specific journey. So, surrogacy has evolved significantly in the past 2 decades. Yet many families still face daunting legal, financial, and personal challenges. Inspired by his own surrogacy journey, Doron Mehmet, the founder of Tammuz Family, established the company with a mission to empower intended parents to navigate these obstacles. And since 2008, we have been a trusted guide for over 2,000 families worldwide. Now, John, how many members of the staff are past Tammuz parents, and why does that even matter?
Yeah, so uniquely, Tammuz Family has over 40% of the folks who work in directorial or territory managerial positions like me have gone through surrogacy themselves with Tammuz, which is unique, not only in terms of being a surrogacy services provider in which executive staff have actually done the very thing that they're providing intended parents with, but it's also unique because, as you might already appreciate, unless you've actually gone on a surrogacy journey yourself, which is so peculiar and idiosyncratic. I mean, there are lots of perspectives and insights that folks who've actually done it can provide others who haven't. So unless you've actually gone on a journey, you wouldn't know. So here you are, you're working with Tammuz, and you're being guided by folks who have those very insights, those perspectives, those pieces of advice that honestly will make the going, which is still relatively smooth, not much smoother, because as Victor has already mentioned, these journeys have ups and downs. Some of these ups are limited, some of the downs are quite protracted, and in the end, it all works out beautifully. How does anyone get through this? Having folks literally who've done it, guiding you through this is really, really a wonderful value. And that is uniquely something that Tammuz offers its parents, simply by the number of people who actually work here who've done it. So
Thank you, John. So all of this to say, when you choose a pathway to parenthood with Tammuz, you're not just signing up for a surrogacy program, you're embarking on a transformative journey with a team that has been where you are and genuinely cares about helping you achieve your family formation goals. We are the preeminent international surrogacy service provider in the world, with over 17 years of experience administering programs globally. Committed to helping families grow their families with proven expertise and personal dedication. We offer 6 accessible and highly cost-effective surrogacy pathways, allowing individuals and couples from a diverse, broad array of backgrounds to form their families. As of April 2025, Tammuz Family has helped welcomed an incredible 2,000 babies into the world and many, many more to come. We are truly a global outfit with all the experience that being as widespread and longstanding has afforded us. We have 15 offices on 5 continents and a dedicated team of 65 professionals who have the privilege of supporting families currently from 20 different countries. Our team of surrogacy consultants, case managers, journey and clinic coordinators, working together with our fertility clinics and legal partners, will offer you personalized support and guide you from the initial consultation to the birth of your baby, ensuring the safe return of your family back home. Whatever your family and family formation goals look like, we have a suitable pathway for you to expand your family with reliable partners who are as committed and dedicated to you as we are. Now, important to note, we only administer gestational surrogacy programs in locations with a genuinely supporting and supportive legal and regulatory framework to support the venture, and where our world-class fertility clinic partners focus with as much empathy and sensitivity towards our intended parents, surrogates, and egg donors as they do on using cutting-edge medical technology to achieve high transfer success rates. Our USA program has been in operation for 17 years, making it our longest running program with a proven track record of excellence. Following closely are the Colombian and Georgia pathways, each with 6 years of robust success, gaining great popularity among a large share of RIPs and delivering excellent results. Our programs in Mexico, Argentina, and Armenia have emerged from expansion initiatives based on prior collaborations with fertility partners in the last 3 years. Argentina's program is an extension of our Colombia program, as we work with the same clinic, Selahem, in both countries. Similarly, the program in Armenia is a result of our partnership with our Georgia fertility clinic partner, the Georgian Reproductive Clinic, or Reproductive Center, which has successfully expanded into Armenia just this year with the opening of a fully equipped and state-of-the-art clinic and hospital with all of the required services for IPs literally under one roof. So from now on, I will hand it off to John, who will take you guys to the end. John?
thank you, Victor. I have a lot to go through. So the question we ask, why should you select Tammuz Family as your agency to complete a gestational surrogacy journey? So Tammuz offers a groundbreaking surrogacy model where every aspect of your journey is carefully coordinated and administered through our dedicated team. You'll work closely and regularly with your case manager, 2 of whom we've met, our valiant Zined and Sebastian here, while I, as the territory manager, oversee all the operations in our office, including ensuring that you have consistent and reliable points of contact every step of the way. As a team, collaborating passionately not only here, but globally, to help you form your family, we'll address with timeliness all of your medical, legal, and financial concerns, helping to cultivate as seamless and stress-free an experience as possible. Now, again, as Victor's already alluded to earlier on, surrogacy journeys require large reserves of patience. Did I say you need to be patient? You need to be patient. This is not an overnight thing. And you need resilience and positive thinking, positive psychology, and truly trust. You have to trust the process. And that's not just you, that's all of us. And we do. It's not necessarily an easy demand to meet every day, let alone over a long period of time. And surrogacy journeys, as I say, don't happen overnight. In the broad scheme, the parameters in which we operate are still highly reliable, stable, and efficient, especially when you step back and you consider just how complex and layered an IVF-based surrogacy journey is, with the many players, locations, and often unpredictable and contingency-based outcomes. And these are involved at every stage, from early on all the way through delivery and even beyond delivery. We promise, and here I am, living proof, you do get through it. You will get through it, with flying colors, in fact. And with the most essential outcome guaranteed at a fixed, known cost. And how we do this is through what Tammuz is uniquely offering. It's called the full guarantee plan. And the outcome, the guaranteed outcome, literally, absolutely, is that you are going to have a baby or babies, full stop. And in getting to that point, our team, and especially your case manager, who's really your guide, your goddess, your god, your North Star, they're the ones who are giving you all the updates every stage of the journey from beginning to end. They'll be available to you as much as you need to answer your questions, or as relevant to direct you to additional professionals. I'm also in the loop of all of our clients' journeys. We really need to make sure that you have all the support you need to enjoy and also endure this journey. And if you think this is hard, wait till you have kids. No, I'm joking. I mean, that's the whole point of this. It is amazing. And kids, I mean, it really does prepare you for what this is all about. Central to Tammuz Family's comprehensive approach is, as I've been saying, is our innovative guarantee plan. And we'll explore that in more detail in a bit. These plans are designed to create a smooth and fixed cost journey for intended parents by covering all the necessary services and components for an unlimited number of attempts in order for you to fulfill your dream of having a baby. So from facilitating your sperm donation to your selecting your egg donor, you're only going to work with egg donors who you want and approve of. And I should say that when we talk about the full guarantee plan, the core requirement here is that you're working with an egg donor affiliated with the database of the destination that you're doing your plan. We have other plans for folks who are not looking to work with an external, with an egg donor that we provide, or are coming to us with embryos they've already created. We'll talk about that in a bit. So it's very important early and often to remind yourselves that when you are pursuing a guarantee plan, you're working with an egg donor from our database. And I'll talk a little more about that in detail. We're managing this plan for you expertly. And when you choose us, the databases, you'll gain access to a network of vetted and highly reputable anonymous egg donor databases in most cases, world-class fertility clinics, surrogate recruitment agencies, and legal teams. And this not only alleviates the burden of having to independently navigate multiple contracts and contacts, it also eliminates the many complexities and confusions associated with directly allocating and making disbursements for a journey. There's a lot of payment that needs to happen here. I can't tell you what a headache it is to have to walk around with a spreadsheet and tell this person needs to be paid this week. And this we take out of the picture for you to take as much of the stress and anxiety that entails out of your lives. And this approach, in addition to everything else we provide, ensures a stable, reliable process, making for as seamless and smooth a transition as possible from one stage to the next. There are many, many stages here as you embark on this truly life-changing journey. Okay, so that's a lot. So now that we've talked and you've learned a bit more about what makes Tammuz Family the preeminent international surrogacy services provider, including in the United States, and we'd love to know right now, we'll just ask you, what would your reason be for partnering possibly with us? What is given what we've described, what reason might be the most resonant one for you for deciding to partner with Tammuz Family? So again, with the questions you might be asking or have already asked, if you can answer the question I just posed in the chat, and then we'll take it up again with everything else in the Q&A.
Should we take a quick?
Do we want to take a quick, like 2-minute break? Does everyone need, I mean, we've been going at a pace and a lot of information. Why don't we take about a couple minutes so people can actually answer that question? again, the question is, now that you've heard a little more about what we do and who we are, given what you've heard, what might be the most resonant reason for you to partner with us in order to fulfill your dream of having a baby? So take a minute to answer that, and then we'll return.
And we're back.
We're back. Let me get my video. Is my video on? My video's on.
Now. Listen. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're at the surrogacy plans.
So everyone's back. Everyone had a breather. So it's interesting. We were looking at some of the answers. Those of you at home watching have entered as being the top reason for possibly partnering with us, given what we've described about ourselves. And I guess the number one, the majority of people, first of all, are looking to get started possibly on a journey, hopefully with us, in whatever way, within the next 3 months. And that the most resonant reason for those folks who to partner possibly with Tammuz is for transparency and cost. And then the second most resonant reason apparently is
Reliability and transparency.
the transparency is the first, no? Or transparency and cost is the first one, and the second one had to do
Reliability and support.
reliability and support. Okay, great. It's good to know. All of which you genuinely will have if you work with us. Okay, so picking up with where we left off, the guarantee plan, just a little bit more. The guarantee plan is the plan that most of our intended parents are choosing to do when they work with us. It provides you with the most emotional, mental, and financial security possible with our plans, because it includes unlimitedly everything that needs to be in place here fundamentally to achieve a successful live birth or births, regardless of the number of attempts or procedures required along the way to achieve that goal. So unlimitedly meaning you're paying a fixed cost and you get everything that's fundamentally integral: egg donation, fertilizations, transfers, PGT in most of our programs, the surrogate matching and the compensation for surrogate, the legal services that you need wherever you're doing this to obtain your parental rights, and then later on earlier on to enter into a contract with surrogate. And the embryo transfers themselves. We'll transfer as many times as we need to in the context of a guarantee plan in order for you to achieve successful live birth. So that is unique. I don't know, and no one here knows, of any provider in the world is offering truly that absolute of a guaranteed outcome. So that is the plan that the bulk of our parents are doing, but we also offer plans, as I mentioned before, for folks who don't need an egg donor possibly. They already have embryos. They've been on another journey previously, if there's an intended mother in the picture and wants to donate her own eggs, and is, well, that's a bit of a hybrid, but for folks who actually have embryos, we have, as we say, existing embryo plans, and these are tailored especially for these folks. So obviously we're not doing the IVF. We are matching these parents with surrogates and providing them the legal guidance and framework in which to obtain their parental rights once the babies are born. We have a good number of parents doing that, including parents who started in a full guarantee plan and then at the end of that journey had remaining embryos that were created in the course of the guarantee plan that they didn't need to use. So they're yours, they're theirs in perpetuity, and then decided to embark upon an existing embryo plan to have a second child. And that, in fact, is actually what John Liu has done, who you'll be meeting in a few minutes to talk about his experience. And then the third main plan is the self-extraction plan, which I just began to talk about, which is specifically tied to intended mothers who want to work with their own eggs. And so we do the IVF for the mothers with, by all rights, their partner, their husband's sperm. We create embryos through that, and then we are using the embryos resulting from the self-extraction plan for a surrogacy pregnancy. So the self-extraction plan in this case is a specific plan. It doesn't involve necessarily yoking it, so to speak, to an existing embryo plan. The self-extraction plan includes the surrogate, the transfer, and the IVF. So these are the three main plans that Tammuz offers. So I think we're moving on to USA.
Yep.
Where are we in time? Okay. So we'll talk about the destinations that we've been mentioning throughout our presentation today. And we'll hit the main points so people have a good sense of what the distinctions are actually about these programs. I've already said that Tammuz offers guarantee plans wherever we are administering surrogacy journeys. And at the core of any guarantee plan we do, whether it's in the US or outside the US, is exactly what I just enumerated: an unlimited number of eggs, fertilizations, transfers, surrogates, legal services, the embryo transfers, and also in a few programs, the PGT, the testing of the embryos to make sure they're chromosomally normal before we attempt getting pregnant. So the USA, some top highlights about it. First of all, it's open to everybody in terms of their relationship status, whether they're single, partnered, married, gay, everyone and anyone who is approved to do a guarantee plan can do it in the USA. It is also arguably the most straightforward and streamlined path towards obtaining parental rights when you have a baby, certainly for US citizens. you have a baby here, the baby's born, within 24 to 48 hours, you're out of the hospital. Long before, or relatively long before the baby's even delivered, our legal teams in the USA are petitioning for your parental rights through a pre-birth order in the state where your surrogate lives. So by the time the baby's born, and you go to the birth clerk in the hospital, it's you and only you who will be on the birth certificate, and that's basically what you're going to get in fairly short order. You get the birth certificate, you have the baby, and that's it. The end of story, so to speak. That's not the case exactly in the other destinations. We'll talk about that, but this is one of the big distinctions between doing a surrogacy in the U.S., whether it's a guarantee plan or another plan, versus doing it outside the U.S. The age limit, where Tammuz has put age caps on who can participate. And this is not something that the clinics are actually dictating. We have decided, in the interest of practicing, as we do and always have and always will, responsible surrogacy. We are always concerned about the anticipated longevity of the parent in relation to the baby that will be delivered to them through surrogacy. So every program has its own age cap in that respect. In the USA, the age cap is 60, meaning if you are an intended sperm donor, and your semen is adequate to do this, you can be no older than 60 at the time of signing an agreement to do a guarantee plan in the USA. Now, obviously, as we said, it doesn't happen overnight. We say 60 is the latest that you can get started for a journey that might still take 2 years, maybe even more than 2 years to complete. But this is all in the interest of maintaining the responsible position that we need to in terms of the parents' anticipated longevity. The egg donors, like all the egg donors in our other programs, they are part of a database that's been vetted, highly reputable. It's affiliated with our clinic. Our primary clinic partner in the United States is the California Center for Reproductive Health, which is in Los Angeles. And most of the donors, like in all of the databases, are particular to the demographic of the country where the program is happening. So that means most of the donors in the USA database are from the US. They're anonymous. And I say anonymous with an asterisk because when you look at a donor's profile in the US, some of them will actually suggest that they're open to being in touch with the parent, or if not being in touch necessarily, open to some kind of contact in the future. I mean, this is determined on a case-by-case basis, depending on the egg donor. But largely speaking, they are anonymous, which means you don't know their names, you don't know where they live, but you do know a lot about them. You see what they look like. These profiles are quite extensive. There are a lot of details in these profiles to give parents a real good sense of who their egg donor might be. And if in a profile in the US, there's something more that a parent wants to know than what's just listed in the profile, we can always ask for more information in the US, and we usually get it. We also have a contingent of South African egg donors who are participating in the USA database. And so depending on who you might be interested in, we will know whether this is a South African donor or not. But there's a nice wide range of ethnic representation necessarily. Every country has its demographic, which means what you see in the general population of one country is what you will see in the spread of egg donors in that country's database. We have women who are white, women who are black, Indian, Asian, a whole host, which is particularly the US. The egg donors will all go to the California Center for Reproductive Health for the retrieval and the fertilization. It's also where the sperm donors must go to donate. Fertilization happens there, the PGT happens there, and it's also where the surrogates will go. Now, we work with surrogates in the United States from all over the country. And that means, surrogates in California, surrogates in Arizona, surrogates in Texas, North Carolina, Indiana, Georgia. Because of the negotiated and highly competitive and cost-effective structure we have in place for the guarantee plan, we are not working from surrogates regularly from places like Massachusetts or Connecticut or New York, where the base compensation rate is considerably higher than what we can accommodate for the purposes of executing a guarantee plan without, of course, sacrificing anything legal or medical. I mean, it's a very good program. Obviously, if people have regional preferences, we can filter our search for a surrogate within a certain part of the country. The more particular your filters are for finding a surrogate in this place versus that place might mean that it takes longer to match with a surrogate. But at the core of doing a program in the United States, and this is the other big distinction between doing a program in the US versus outside the US, is the interpersonal bond the parents have with a surrogate. This is vital and key to the success of a journey, because as Victor already mentioned earlier on, when you're doing a surrogacy in the US, Your surrogate, certainly by the time she's reaching the end of her first trimester, is your primary point of information about everything medical. She's the one who's giving you the reports, the ultrasound imagery, inviting you quite literally, figuratively into her life. So when people match with a surrogate, in a certain sense, it doesn't matter whether she's from Alabama or Alaska. We need to ensure that the match personally, interpersonally, is good between the parents and the surrogate, because there's a kind of intimacy, not just a kind of, an actual intimacy that gets cultivated and has to be given what's at stake here in terms of the surrogate's position in driving the journey. That's important, and that's distinct from other programs. Other highlights that we should talk about before we move on. All the surrogates, as is the case with all of our destinations, must be within a certain age range. We will work with surrogates as young as 21, and even as, I don't want to say old, because that makes me seem ancient, as old as 43. I mean, women who are 43 are perfectly qualified to do a pregnancy, can work here. I mean, the screening is very rigorous and long to this effect. All the surrogates have to have had at least one successful pregnancy and carry to term in their own lives to even be considered as candidates. We can't work with anyone essentially who hasn't had a child or children in their own lives. So going back to why the bond and what's kind of unique and idiosyncratic about working with a surrogate here is that you are not only partnering with a woman who's going to carry your baby, she's carried her own babies. She has a family. So by default, when you're getting involved with the surrogate, you're getting involved truly in family life on the other end of the table, which is actually quite interesting and can be very moving. And I can speak to that personally, having done my surrogacies with my husband here twice with an amazing surrogate in the US, who we count as a good friend. And that's not always the case, let alone the imperative. And people, arrange and administer their relationships as they see fit. But there is, as you might already appreciate, more room in the US for something to blossom and develop beyond anyone's expectations, and I mean that in a positive sense, than might be the case if you're doing this outside the US. So that's also ties into what one's goals might be in selecting a program. If you're the kind of parent who, before having a baby, you really want to have that sort of involvement with your carrier, with your surrogate, really be regularly contacting and in contact with her, then the US is probably a great place to fulfill that goal. So that's an important distinction. We've talked about the pre-birth order, which enables and ensures that you'll be on the birth certificate from the start. The cost, that is the other big distinction. So the cost in the US, as you might already guess, is going to be the highest of the costs we offer. And the main reason for this is because healthcare in the United States is very expensive. And without going into too much detail at this point, and again, as Victor said, when you schedule a consultation with either of us, we will talk at length and in depth about these cost structures. But the nitty gritty of it is that in the US, you're paying the cost of the core program, the guaranteed plan program. But, and this is also the case even with existing embryo plans and self-extraction plans, there are a number of additional costs, namely for the surrogate's health insurance, that are not included with the core costs. So what happens in the US when you do a program here is that you're identifying, selecting your specific guarantee plan. And again, we'll talk about those in consultations for those who are going to schedule them. And then you have to put into a kind of reserve account up to $25,000 additional dollars to take up things like the health insurance that will need to be in place to cover the surrogate's pregnancy. We obviously can't do this without good coverage. Most surrogate candidates in the US do not come to the table with a health insurance policy that is specifically surrogacy friendly. A lot of surrogates have health insurance policies through jobs they've got, through jobs that their partners have, but it's increasingly rare to find a surrogate who comes to us with a health insurance policy that's specifically surrogacy friendly, which means when it comes time to make sure that she's covered, we have to purchase it through the open enrollment period. We are, and the rates are determined by the state in which the surrogate lives. Every state is different. We have a wonderful healthcare system here in the US. It's complicated. In the end, it works out fine, but the cost here is a real differential. And so the money for the healthcare, the health insurance comes out of this additional reserve fund that parents are putting into the pot on top of the cost they're paying for the plan. And whatever money is unused from that reserve fund after the baby or babies are born gets returned to the parents. And again, that's something we'll talk more about at length and in depth when and if you consult with us. So that's basically, I think that's the US in terms of what the salient features are here.
Okay.
Good. Let's move on to
Mexico?
Let's move on to Mexico. Brilliant. So Mexico, as we discussed before, we've been there now for 3 years. Mexico is obviously contiguous to the United States. It is arguably the most appealing, at least geographically speaking, destination for North American-based intended parents to do a surrogacy plan if, for example, the U.S. is not in their sights. Like every program, it has its distinctions. Same thing in place here for the guarantee plan, unlimited eggs, always from an egg donor of your choice. The egg donors in the Mexico program are from the Mexico Egg Donor Database. They're anonymous, and they truly are anonymous. So unlike in the US, where even if you're looking at an egg donor in Mexico and you want more information than what's available in our profile, we can't ask for it and we won't get it. They really uphold the anonymity here very sharply, and they need to by law. This is also the case in Colombia and in Argentina, which we'll talk about when we get to those countries. The program is based in Mexico City. It's not in Cancun. Some people have heard about programs in Cancun. We're not in Cancun. We never have been. Surrogacy became legal as a venture in Mexico in 2021 through a Supreme Court ruling. And until that point, we weren't in Mexico, even though other agencies were, because we didn't find, for example, the clinical offerings in Cancun good enough for what we need to have in place to do this truly as reliably and safely as we must.
Oh, the legal framework.
Well, the legal framework was a bit different. I mean, people could do it legally in Cancun. It was a bit different, but the Supreme Court ruling until 2021 had not been ratified. Once that got ratified, and so once it really started the legal and regulatory change in Mexico that allowed surrogacy to happen countrywide.
Okay.
So all of a sudden it opened up for us in a way, and we thought, listen, if we're going to do it in Mexico, let's do it where we really have the strongest and broadest array of clinical offerings to work with, which is Mexico City, which is the capital. So the program is there. And in the time since, actually, we started with one clinic, which we had a vested interest in. And as can be the case when you do surrogacy programs internationally, there are changes that, depending on the nature of the change, will then maybe change our approach to working in that country. So Mexico is a wonderful place to do it. But for truly bureaucratic and administrative reasons, we decided very recently to move our operations from that clinic, Repervita, which was a very good clinic, to 2 new clinics in which we weren't encountering as many obstructions, especially in the surrogate matching waiting times. I said, be patient. This is an example. In Mexico, although this is not the case right now, it was just recently, the waiting times for surrogates was quite long. And again, this has to do with supply and demand, as we talked about before. You know, we only will work and can only work with surrogates who are truly medically, psychologically qualified. And depending on the number of parents who are looking for candidates at any given point will determine in that place at that destination how long they have to wait for such a qualified candidate. So without wanting to go into too labyrinthine an explanation as to why it was taking so long just recently, and now it's actually not taking that long in Mexico. Part of it has to do with moving to these 2 new great clinics in Mexico City who have particular arrangements with the surrogate recruitment agencies where the waiting times are quite short. Will that hold? I don't know. As Victor mentioned before, surrogate matching waiting periods in any country at any given point can fluctuate, again, depending on demand and supply. Right now, things are moving along quite efficiently in Mexico. And the other big feature in Mexico is that people looking to do the program there can get started very quickly. You know, sperm donors can go down there, intended mothers can go down there to do self-extraction as soon as they're approved. I should back up and say that the age cap in Mexico is 60, if I'm correct.
No, 55.
55, excuse me. It used to be 60, it's 55, meaning both partners or the single intended parent cannot be any older than 55 at the time of signing agreement to do the program, which of course doesn't mean that by the time they'll have a baby, they'll still be 55, but that is the cutoff that we've determined to be the maximum age that a parent looking to do a program in Mexico can sign an agreement with Tammuz Family to embark on a journey there. Mexico, although not nearly as expensive as the United States, still has relatively high healthcare costs compared to, for example, what they are in Colombia and Argentina or in Georgia and Armenia. So at core, the guaranteed plans in Mexico include everything I've enumerated so far: eggs, fertilizations, transfers, surrogates, legal representations. The PGT, which I discussed is included in the program in the United States, is not included as part of the core cost of the plan in Mexico. So anytime anyone does a fertilization in Mexico in the context of any plan, not simply the guaranteed plans, but any plan, and they want the resulting embryos assessed for their chromosomal status, they'll have to pay out of pocket for every round of fertilization they need to do in order to have a baby successfully. Again, the cost is not nearly as high as it is in the US. And again, we'll talk about these things in consultations. But it is somewhere midway between what the anticipated net costs are in Colombia and Argentina and what they are in the United States. The other related concern here has to do with the surrogates' health insurance. All the surrogates, again, like in the US, within a certain age range, they all have to have at least one child of their own, very carefully recruited and assessed before they're even matched with parents. They all are covered by a standard health insurance policy to cover everything that's considered part of a standard pregnancy monitoring protocol and delivery. If, however, the surrogate in Mexico encounters an adverse event, whether in the course of pregnancy or delivery, and needs what we might consider non-standard care, the parents in this case will have to be prepared to pay a deductible for whatever those non-standard costs are, up to $5,000. So, for example, if a surrogate has an adverse event in delivery, and hemorrhages, maybe she'll have a hysterectomy. Anything and everything that can happen in a delivery pregnancy is still very much on the table in surrogacy. It doesn't happen often, but if that were to happen in Mexico, for example, the parents have to be prepared to pay $5,000 of whatever that event's costs are. And the other big distinction is that everything and anything relating to the baby's healthcare, like it would be in the US, is completely the parent's responsibility. The minute the baby's born, even though you're going to be in Mexico with the baby for several weeks before you go home, parents are fully responsible for everything related to the baby's healthcare, including pointedly the baby's intensive care unit costs. If the baby's born prematurely, again, another possibility. Again, it doesn't happen that often, but again, anything and everything that can happen with the delivery can happen here. If the baby is, needing special care before it's discharged, the parents, everything here, parents have to take care of. That's another salient distinction. We work in Mexico with single parents, and we work with couples, whether they're gay and straight, or straight, not gay and straight, although maybe there are those couples as well. What happens with the exit process, this is the other big distinction compared to the US. When a child is born of surrogacy in Mexico, if it's a heterosexual couple, both parents will be on the birth certificate from the start. Now, when I say from the start, unlike in the US where you're going to the birth clerk in the hospital and either simultaneously or within a day or two, you're going to get the birth certificate. That's not how it happens in Mexico. And with all due respect to Mexico, I love Mexico. Mexico, things take their time. Mañana doesn't always mean mañana. It could mean maybe a few days, maybe a week later for, what you might consider simple things. Now, in this case, it's not so simple. It's simply to get a birth certificate. Births are registered municipally in Mexico. So usually it takes a good month after you're discharged from the hospital to get the birth certificate from the Mexico City Civil Registry, where your child's birth will be registered in Mexico. And on that birth certificate, in a heterosexual couple's case, will be both parents. Whereas if you are a gay couple, or a gay male couple, I should say, it will only be the sperm donor who will be on the birth certificate, which means that the non-biological father in a same-sex male couple will eventually have to do a second parent adoption of his husband's or his partner's baby in order to have full legal rights to his husband's or his partner's baby, or vice versa. So that's different than in the US, and different than in Argentina. And the other part of this, why does it take particularly long in Mexico to end the exit process, is that even though on the birth certificate the surrogate is not listed, whether it's a heterosexual couple or a single parent or in a gay couple, there is still, as they say, an amparo initially affixed to that certificate, not physically. An amparo, is, some of you might know, is an injunction. And the injunction relates to the fact that the baby was delivered through surrogacy. And that injunction, or that amparo, needs to be lifted or closed through a federal court date, which must be done. And the Supreme Court ruling that makes surrogacy legal in Mexico ensures will be done. But in some cases, parents have to wait even after they get the amparo birth certificate to have the federal court date to get the amparo lifted formally. So on the birth certificate itself, it only lists the parent or the parents, but in the records, until that amparo is severed, there's still an association in the registry, in the records, between the surrogate and the baby she's delivered for the parents. The surrogate has no legal, genetic, maternal claim. It's just the way things work in Mexico. And it's still, in the broad scheme, a very good place to do it.
Should we move on to
Let's
Colombia?
move on, yeah, because I know we're pushing on time. I meant to say also, in terms of these exit processes, whether it's the amparo, just getting the birth certificate, these are all part of the costs of the legal services that are included with the guarantee plan that we offer wherever we're doing surrogacy. Okay. Next destination
It's Colombia.
is Colombia. I'll try and get through this as speedily as I can. This will be incentive for people to schedule consultations because we can really dive deep into it. But Colombia, as we said, is really a robust program. We've been there, like in Georgia now, for over 6 years. It is a very popular program. It is a program that is only for single intended fathers and same-sex male couples. We don't offer Colombia to heterosexual couples or single intended mothers. And the reason for this has to do with the exit process. Every country has its own exit process. In Colombia, what happens is that only the sperm donor, like in Mexico, will end up on the birth certificate along with the surrogate. And eventually, in Colombia, the surrogate is removed, leaving the intended or the sperm donor alone on the birth certificate. So in Colombia, there's never a point, if theoretically a heterosexual couple or single intended, or well, let's talk about heterosexual couples, not so much single intended mothers, but if a heterosexual couple went to Colombia to do surrogacy, obviously the father would be on the birth certificate, but the mother, the real mother, the intended mother would never be on it. And when the surrogate in Colombia was removed from that couple's birth certificate, it would only be the father who would stay on that birth certificate in perpetuity. In other words, there'd never be a point in a heterosexual couple's life that the mother, the actual mother here, would ever be on her baby's birth certificate. So just that alone does not make us feel comfortable offering Colombia to heterosexual couples. That's a particularly fraught position, emotionally, psychologically, for an intended mother to be in, we believe. And it would mean, at least, technically speaking, that if the mother in this case wanted to have legal rights to her own baby, she would have to do an adoption of the baby once she was back home in the States or in Canada, and that could only happen after the surrogate in Colombia was removed. And the surrogate removal process, known as impugnation or the maternity dispute, gets resolved usually 12 to 15 months after you're back home. So not only is that a long time to wait, even for a single intended father or same-sex male couple, although it's a very reliable process. We know it works well. It's worked countless times. For an intended mother to wait that long and still not be on the birth certificate. So in short, we don't really offer Colombia to heterosexual couples. Age cap. We work with couples or single men in Colombia. If they're going into it, have to be no older than 52 at the time of signing an agreement. I think this is a recent change. It used to be 55. It's 52 for single men. And if you are in a same-sex male couple, you can't be any older than 55 as a sperm donor at the time of signing the agreement. That is the new, I think that is the new stipulation. In Colombia, the guarantee plan offers everything that we offer everywhere for the cost: eggs, fertilizations, transfers, PGT, the surrogate, the compensation, the legal services, the transfers. Also, the health insurance in Colombia, which is national health insurance, is comprehensive in its coverage. Unlike in Mexico, if, for example, the surrogate encounters an adverse event, even those costs will be covered by the health insurance that's in place for surrogates there. And even the baby's non-standard healthcare costs. For example, if the baby is in the NICU or has anything non-standard happening during delivery, even as long as the baby's in the hospital in Colombia, the surrogate's health insurance will be covering everything for the baby as well. Once you leave the hospital, like it would be anywhere, the parents are responsible for the baby's health care, and that's they have to have a plan in place once we get to that point, because it will take obviously a few weeks, not as long as in Mexico, but usually 4 or 5 weeks. John Liu is about to talk with us and can talk more about that real hand experience. But during that time, parents have to have a plan in place to take care of anything for their baby. That's in Colombia. Surrogates, again, same criteria. They have to be within a certain age range, certain BMI. They all have kids of their own. They're not interested in any way of having another child, but they are truly altruistically, sincerely devoted to doing this, in addition to being financially motivated. And the parents in Colombia, surrogates in Colombia, have to be in touch with each other now. It's not obviously exactly like a North American style relationship between parents and surrogates, but there needs to be demonstrated throughout not only the surrogacy journey itself, but even that period that we're waiting for the surrogate to come off the Colombian birth certificate, a kind of contact, that there is connection. This has to do with the resolution of the process by which the surrogate will be removed from the birth certificate ultimately. There can be no sense or concern that this wasn't a true, sincere connection between parents and surrogates from beginning to end. So on the one hand, it's not like a truly, I mean, well, it depends on how the parents and the surrogates might conduct a relationship with each other, whether they speak Spanish or not. You can visit the surrogates. So it really is up to the parents and surrogates in Colombia to determine, the level of intimacy or how in depth they want to become involved with each other interpersonally. But there has to be that connection there as well. I think those are the highlights for Colombia. And again, I am sort of speeding through this, but we can talk more with anyone who wants to learn more during the consultation.
Okay.
Where are we now?
Let's move on to Argentina.
Argentina. A lot similar in Argentina to Colombia because, as Victor mentioned earlier, it is the same clinic that we're working with in Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires is where the program is centralized in Argentina, which means the egg donors are from an Argentinian egg donor database. Surrogates all from the Buenos Aires metropolitan area. It's the Selachem clinic. It's the same clinic that we've been working with for 6 years in Colombia. So we know the protocols, we know the clinic like the back of our hand, which is one of the incentives for having established the program in Argentina at this point about a year and a half, well, in the fall of 2023. And the program, as has been the case in a number of our programs throughout our history, including Mexico and way back when we were in Thailand and India and Nepal, places we're not doing surrogacy anymore because things changed in such a way that didn't allow us to maintain the very important things that need to be in place here to do this safely and smoothly. Argentina's gone through some evolutions in terms of the exit process, but the long and short of it, I'll emphasize short, is that both parents in Argentina are anticipated to end up on the birth certificate, which is different than in Colombia, and different than for gay couples in Colombia. In other words, and we work with anyone in Argentina. You can be gay, you can be straight. What you can't quite be, or we don't recommend Argentina for, is a single parent. And this has to do with this recent evolution of the legal and regulatory framework for doing surrogacy in Argentina, is that they're biased towards two-parent households. They want, ideally, only two-parent households to be doing surrogacy in Argentina, so that at the end of the journey, when the Argentinian surrogate who initially appears on the birth certificate is removed, she's removed not through the same kind of process that happens in Colombia. She's removed literally through an integrative adoption. And obviously, to do an adoption, there needs to be a second parent waiting to take the place of the surrogate who's been on the Argentinian birth certificate to that point, which means we need to work with couples. So when a baby is born in Argentina through surrogacy, one of the two in the couple ends up on the birth certificate initially, and it actually doesn't matter who. It can be the biological parent, it can be the non-biological parent, doesn't matter, and the surrogate, the Argentinian surrogate, and then 12 to 15 months later, the surrogate will be removed, and the parent who was not on the birth certificate initially gets integrated literally through an adoption. So depending on your goals, and this all goes back to what we were talking at the start of our webinar today, what are your goals? What are your interests? What are you willing to live with? What are you not willing to live with? What are you comfortable with? No two people are going to come to this alike. Maybe this idea of having both you and your partner on the birth certificate is fundamentally important, which means you don't want to go to Colombia, then Argentina is an option. Or Mexico is an option if you can't do the USA, if you're heterosexual. So there are a lot of conditional things that people have to weigh in their minds as they consider the many options that we offer to determine what really is the best fit program for them to do this. Because it's very layered and no two places are alike, but this is what conjoins us. We are only doing this in places, Colombia, Argentina, Mexico, the United States, where at core, everything that really needs to be in place here is in place to do this amazingly and safely.
The Georgia plan.
We'll do Georgia. Is there anything about Argentina we should hit before? Colombia, Selachem is key. It's a big clinic. It takes longer these days to get started in Argentina. This has to do not so much with supply and demand, but capacity and demand for the program. There's a lot of demand for Argentina. The clinic can only handle so many people any given moment to begin their journey, to donate sperm or eggs. And so we have to titrate the number of people who are going down to Argentina at any given time, and they can't be overwhelmed with people flooding their lobby the minute they want to donate sperm or extract eggs. So there is a longer waiting period even just to start the journey in Argentina. And by the way, the start of a journey, when we estimate the average amount of time it takes to get through a journey, we are marking that only once the parents have made a sperm donation trip or sent their embryos to wherever they're going. That clock begins with that event. So in Mexico, the United States, those events can happen shortly after you sign an agreement. Colombia, you have to wait 3 months before you donate sperm. Argentina, you have to wait also 3 months. And then later on, as we discussed before, the waiting times for surrogates fluctuate in these countries on the basis of supply and demand. The average amount of time, by the way, this is what I meant to say earlier, that it takes for parents to get through a journey these days in Argentina or Colombia, average, starting with the sperm donation trip or the sending of embryos, is anywhere from 22 to 24 months, and that's an average. So it can go longer than that. It can go possibly a bit shorter, but probably not. So as we said, these are not overnight journeys. They take a good long time. And throughout that period, there's not much you're doing other than waiting. There's not much to do physically in these journeys. But between the point of donation and going down there for delivery, that is the journey. And that is also where Tammuz comes in quite distinctly and uniquely to support you through it all. Georgia and Armenia. We'll do a quick run through Georgia because I know we're running a little over and I want John to talk, not me, but the other John. Georgia and Armenia, frankly, are well, they're farther away geographically from most North Americans. They're great places to do surrogacy, and especially if, for whatever reason, Argentina or Mexico is not in your sights. These are wonderful places to do it. The German-Georgian Reproductive Center is our partner clinic in both countries, and the program in Armenia, which just began this year, is an expansion effort from the program we've had for 6 years in Georgia. So everything in Georgia is centered in Tbilisi, which is the capital. Everything in Armenia is centered in Yerevan, which is the capital of Armenia. And we just, GGRC, our partner clinic, literally built from the ground up a state-of-the-art, highly and fully equipped, a full-service hospital and clinic in Yerevan to accommodate our program. We are, by all rights, I think, the first Western agency to be in Armenia doing certainly a guarantee plan. And we have, like as we do with that at the start of any program, really, we're very excited, very confident in its prospects. It's early, so we have yet to have a delivery there. Necessarily, it takes about a year plus before the first group of parents, the pioneers, as we say, actually achieve a birth. But we wouldn't be in Armenia, we wouldn't be anywhere that we are if we didn't really have a really good basis for embarking in the country. The donors, the egg donors in Georgia are Georgian egg donors. And actually, unlike the donors in all of the other countries we're operating, they're technically non-anonymous, which is not to say that the parents and the donors are in touch with each other, but contractually the donor is named. Practically, donors and parents are not in touch with each other, but that is a legal technicality that people have to be aware of. The donors in Georgia, however, are in Armenia are anonymous, and the donor-based databases for these countries are different. In Georgia, it's a Georgian egg donor database. In Armenia, we're working with Ukrainian donors mostly these days. And unlike the other programs, right now at least, with the Ukrainian egg donors, we're working with frozen eggs. We're not doing, as we say, and as we do generally, fresh fertilizations. In all of the other destinations, the goal, the ideal, is to freshly fertilize the eggs. The eggs are harvested or retrieved at the same time that they're fertilized. Whereas if we're working with frozen eggs, they will necessarily have to be thawed along with the semen on the day of the fertilization, and we go about it that way. And there's really not much difference in terms of the success rates of fertilization between frozen and non-frozen eggs, but currently right now, that is the majority way that we are fertilizing in Armenia, and that will probably change in terms of additional egg donor databases we'll be working with there. The exit process in both Georgia and Armenia is I guess the closest to what it is in the United States, in that when a baby's born there, it usually takes a few weeks to get the birth certificate. In Georgia, it's a Georgian birth certificate. Armenia, it's an Armenian birth certificate. Both parents in these countries will end up on the birth certificate from the start. There's no association whatsoever, even invisibly or physically, on the birth certificate with the surrogate there. And once the parents have the birth certificate, they can go to the US Embassy or the Canadian Embassy, as the case may be, to obtain their passport for their baby, and the CRBA, which is the consular report of birth abroad, that they need to leave the country. And these processes, by all rights, in both Georgia and Armenia, are taking about 4 or 5 weeks to complete total. So when you leave Georgia and Armenia, really the journey is done. There's no possible need of a second parent adoption. There's no integrative adoption that needs to happen later on. It's kind of a clean sweep. And we know this really well in Georgia, and by all rights, this will be the case in Armenia. But it is farther afield from the Americas, obviously. The donor databases are what they are. And in Georgia is only for heterosexual couples. And you can be married or unmarried. and Georgia, I will be very frank, they are very pedantic about approving anyone for the program. And it takes, like with Mexico, with other things, the Georgians take a long time to approve, relatively long, and you have to provide a lot of information as a heterosexual couple to pursue a program in Georgia. And at the heart of it is proof, corroborated by a fertility specialist that the couple has had a hard time, has been unsuccessful in trying to have a baby through IVF for at least a year. The couple themselves have to have been cohabitating for at least a year, and they have to have been trying unsuccessfully to have a baby through IVF for at least a year. And we need a letter from their fertility specialist that confirms and verifies all of that before we might even get them approved. So there's a lot of preliminary stages in Georgia that heterosexual couples have to go through to get approved. And once they are, and then they can get started fairly quickly there. But that is a big distinction. Armenia, if you're a heterosexual couple, you need to be married. So you can't be like in Georgia, you don't have to be married. In Armenia, you have to be married. And if you're not married and you're intent on going to Armenia, you can get married in Armenia. You could do a quickie marriage, like a Vegas style thing, a civil ceremony for the purposes of doing the surrogacy there. And get on with it quite quickly. And right now, because as we say, capacity of the facility of GGRC in Armenia is quite broad, and the demand has yet to ramp up in the way that we know it will eventually. So people can get started in Armenia very quickly. If you are a single man or single woman and you are 55 or under, you can also do the program in Armenia, but you genuinely have to be single. There can be no cohabitating here. You have to prove that you're single. So Armenia is a program for heterosexual couples and single men or women 55 and under. I think I'm going to stop there because I think anyone who's increasingly interested in learning more about these programs, again, we would love to meet you and share more and send materials that you could really get a full view of what's on offer. But I hope what we've offered today, what we presented, is giving you a comprehensive enough scope of truly what's on the table with Tammuz, the wide variety of options we give to as many people as possible, at the core of which is the guarantee plan, which is unlike any other provider is offering parents in the world. You are absolutely guaranteed to succeed, and we're not going to stop trying to achieve that goal. And even before you might even sign an agreement to do it, you know what the cost is. There's nothing hidden here. You're not going to be charged additionally if you have to do this again or that again or any number of things again, which could very well happen. And again, this is complex. No one has a crystal ball when you start a journey to say that it's going to happen on this day. You're going to have with these embryos on this day, and these are going to be normal embryos, and so on and so forth. I would love to be able to be that person. Victor would love to be that person. What we do is very careful, takes a lot of patience, resilience, and we are here every step of the way with you to help you cultivate it. So, and it's very useful, I think, practice, as I said before, for becoming a parent, which is really what this is about. It's about forming your family. So I think people who go through surrogacy are already in a class of their own in terms of that prep, in terms of that endurance, that goal-oriented, mission-driven, eye on the prize thinking that honestly is really, really key to being a parent. So I will stop there, I think, is a good place to stop.
We've got John.
John has been waiting patiently, and it's early for John compared to where we are. So let's introduce John. Is he here?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks for
John, are you
inviting me.
here?
He
Thanks
is
for having
there.
me.
He just unmuted himself.
Oh,
I don't
okay,
know if
good.
he can hear us.
John, can you hear us?
I could hear you guys. Could you hear
And I
me?
think everyone, yeah. We've been talking at a pace. I don't know who's still with us. We've been going a little over then. Hi, John. How are you? Do you have your video? I don't know if you want to.
I have my video, but I don't know whether or not it's showing up.
No, we see your beautiful name in letters, but we don't see your face, but it's,
Yeah, I don't see an option for the video right now. And there's an echo going on when I'm speaking.
maybe we need to promote. Maybe that's what we need to do.
Okay, he's promoted.
Okay, John, you're promoted. You should be able to
Chat and
chat and be promoted to being a panelist. You should try now. Oh, now he can mute.
he left.
Oh, he left. No, he's
Hey,
there. Oh,
there you go.
yeah.
Good morning.
Hi. Now
You
you're in
see
the
me?
big leagues now. Yeah, we see you wonderfully. Welcome. Thank you. And thank you so much again, John, for participating. You've been waiting already a long time just to appear. We really are so grateful and appreciative for your participation. I'll just jump in because, and again, I'll remind folks who are still with us that John has been with us now for several years. He started in a guarantee plan in Colombia and had a beautiful baby boy in October of 23, I believe.
Yes.
And is one of the illustrious who, once he had his baby boy, had remaining embryos from that first journey that he was then able to use and has now gone on to use to have another baby, which he's waiting to have in Colombia. So, John, tell us a little bit about first of all where you live, and what got you started in thinking about having kids through surrogacy in the first place. If you wouldn't mind sharing some of that experience with the viewers at home.
Sure. So I live in the Bay Area, Northern California, across from San Francisco. I always wanted a child, and I know that I don't have the parts to carry a child myself. So I originally started looking at adoption. I was not familiar with surrogacy at all. I was first introduced to surrogacy by my friend who asked me to go to a surrogacy seminar in San Francisco, and that's when I learned about surrogacy. I'm still open for adoption, but as I was getting close to starting my journey, I discovered that adoption may take a lot longer compared to surrogacy. So that was the main reason why I actually went to surrogacy because of the timing.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a common challenge that people in the U.S. and particularly single men or men in same-sex male couples face with trying to adopt. A lot of adoption agencies, and God love people want to adopt. I'm not trying to disparage anyone who's looking to adopt, but certainly, unlike, for example, a guarantee plan, where you are guaranteed that even if it takes a long time to succeed, you will have a baby. Whereas people can invest so much energy and time and heartbreak in an adoption, let alone money, and still not have a baby. And obviously, there's a difference between having a baby who is genetically linked to you, which is in most cases in surrogacy happening, whereas in adoption it's not. But at the end, I think certainly if you're looking to do a program outside the U.S., you will be spending as much time and probably less money to achieve your goal than you will in many cases in the U.S. So I don't know. I think, John, you've spoken a little bit to that reality. But
May I ask him what prompted you to choose Tammuz over any other surrogacy agency?
So I did met and spoke with like several different agencies about a US program. I never thought about out of country, never thought about Colombia until I spoke with John, who actually brought up Colombia, which one is the price. And I like how transparent he is. And also like the fact that he did not push me to go do, he did not push me to choose one over the other. He just simply provided me with the information. And to me, I also wanted someone that went through the process before, who understand the process. And I know John went through his process and went through the whole surrogate program. I don't want someone a single mother run in my case where she doesn't understand how I'm going to feel if I go through the journey.
Right. Very well. Yeah, and as of, I think, very recent, you had a baby boy as a result. And could you tell us a bit about what that journey was, beginning to end? Maybe some highlights,
yeah,
some
Yes.
things that really presented challenges.
So your timeline is great. So I'm not going to go through the timeline. I'm just going to go fast. Don't want to waste anyone's time. So I started the program beginning of 2022. Went to Colombia in May 2022. And my child was born in October 2023. So I was one of the lucky one. The process took less than 2 years from signing the contract all the way until I had my baby. I think the most challenging part is actually, well, like you guys said, patience is the main thing. I was having issue with the egg donor where I had to select a second set of egg donors. So there's mainly it went smoothly, but there's definitely a lot of waiting. and then learn it as I go, even though you guys provided me with other information. Some of the stuff I did not know until it happened. Like for example, during the childbirth, I did not know once the child is born in Colombia, I'm responsible for the child from changing diapers, feeding the baby. Um, no one warned me that I had to be stuck in a room with the surrogate mother and the baby sleeping on the floor for 2, 3 days. So those I did not expect. Uh, it was an interesting journey, and I did not expect to be able to actually do a video call during ultrasound with the surrogate mother. That was nice, and actually being there on the last ultrasound.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that goes back to what we were saying. We want parents, any of these to be there by the 37th week. By most pregnancy monitoring protocols before delivery culminate with a 37th week ultrasound. And so that's one of the main reasons we want parents, especially for whatever reason they missed a chance to have a video call early on. Sometimes it's difficult to coordinate these calls across time zones, people's schedules. At least they have that last ultrasound with the surrogate if they're there. That is, one of the reasons to do it. And yes, sleeping in the hospital room, it's a real family affair. You are the same thing in the US. You're with a surrogate in the hospital. Things have changed in Colombia recently. There's even more streamlined delivery protocol whereby parents, first of all, we have a dedicated Tammuz staff in Colombia that is accompanying you every stage of the journey once you arrive for delivery, all the way until your exit from the country. But that said, you are having a baby, and so at that point, that is the point. And so everything that comes with it, and as you said, John, it's your baby. You have to take care of it. It's not like it's not the surrogate.
Yeah.
And I think it's a shock in some ways to a lot of people, which might seem weird given how long you've been waiting for it. This is not a standard pregnancy waiting period. It's a sort of a deconstructed, longer gestational period. So this idea that you'll be more prepared for it than maybe other people, I don't think is true, and I don't think this is the case for anyone. It wasn't for me it took me a long time, and all of a sudden we were having a baby. I thought, wait, do I have to take care of it now? I think that's the case anywhere, honestly. And you really are, in a way, thrust into it, even though no one's thrusting you into this by any means. It's a long process to get to that point. It's interesting. And then, of course, if you're doing it not on home turf, you're doing it in Colombia, there is that additional element of not being at home and waiting to get home. And can you talk, and that's basically what I was trying to lead up to, is can you talk a little bit about how your experience in Colombia either conformed to or exceeded or maybe even departed radically from the expectations you had, which themselves may have been changing over time in doing the program with us?
I actually fell in love with Colombia because of this program. I stayed in Colombia for almost 3 months, 2.5 months with the baby.
Mhm.
I felt like it was a second home, and I was there. I love it there. Um,
Wow.
I was one of the one that did not rush to come back. So I know that I have several friends who went through the program. They they want to get everything done and come back as soon as possible. So they were able to come back to the United States within a month. For me, I was working remotely, um, so I stayed there a little bit longer. Actually, my son was born in Bucaramanga and not the capital, so I actually had to connect from Bogota to Bucaramanga. And then when I did the U.S. passport, um, I had to travel from Bucaramanga back to Bogota, so I was able to stay in two
Right.
cities for a while. Even with the Colombian passport, originally, and I did not. I, that was unexpected. I did not know that I had to fly back to Bogota for the Colombian passport. And fortunately, my surrogate, she spoke English and Spanish, so she was able to assist me with getting the Colombian passport in Bucaramanga. So it
Uh-huh.
delayed. I didn't have to fly too early back to Bogota.
Right. And that's it. By the way, I don't know if you probably know, we're not currently working anymore in
Yes,
Bucaramanga.
yes, I heard.
Um,
I heard I was the last, like I was the last group or something.
So we are, for those who are still with us, what John's referring to is another city, a big city in Colombia at the time that he was doing his program. where we were working with surrogates, in addition to the surrogates that we were working with in Bogota, which is the hub of the program. It's where Selachem's main clinic is. And the main reason is that we were trying to expand our surrogate recruitment so that we would have a more readily available supply of qualified surrogates. And, going back to how these things fluctuate, both in terms of the waiting time, but also supply, we are now working only in Bogota and Medellin. So folks who might do a program with us in Colombia might end up partnering with a surrogate in Medellin. And like in Bucaramanga, if you work with a surrogate in Medellin, you will still have to go back at the end of the journey with your baby and the surrogate to Bogota. These are not long, complicated trips. It's an hour internal flight to fully complete the process of getting the birth certificate and the passport. So that's something you know in advance. But it sounds like, John, there was some confusion in terms of knowing that before your baby was born. And it may have been because it was an early stage point when we were working in Bucaramanga. And this, in hindsight, we wish we would have maybe had a smoother understanding of it. But this also touches on a lot of things that happen in international surrogacy. Sometimes, as long as the core elements are in place, we're going to start and we're going to continue working there, and then they can change and they can adapt or evolve depending on the needs. But anyhow, people do get through it, and it sounds like in the end it was fine. You were not. It wasn't devastating, but it was maybe one of these stressful moments for you.
No, and then one thing, what I really appreciate is that I did not know what was going on. And when I reached out to Tammuz, you guys were able to find me an answer. This is what's going on. This is what's happening. And that's the support I really appreciated. And that's another reason why I'm doing the second journey with you guys.
Yeah, no, we're honored and thrilled and so excited. And can you talk a little bit about what your current journey has been like? I mean, you've been initiated. You're a veteran now. What is it like to be a second time intended parent?
It's so different. This time I'm not as nervous as the first time. The first time, every step, I'm like, oh my gosh, everything is gonna go okay. Like first time, I'm like, when is this gonna happen? This time, I'm just sitting here just waiting for you guys to tell me when you start or when I'll be able to be matched. Like so much more relaxed versus the first time. But I was one of the lucky one. I have 5 embryo created. The first transfer went through, so now I actually have 4 embryo remaining. Um, so yeah.
That's wonderful. And are you comfortable talking a little bit about what it's like to be a parent now of a young boy? I mean, maybe even talk about what it was like when he was born, and I mean, what
I wish I could go back to time. I wish he would stay as an infant forever. He's almost 2 now. It changes your whole life. Uh, I know that, like when I first became parent, even before he was born, I was doing research, trying to take seminar, watching video, how to care for a child, what like all these different things. Once the child is born, once you start raising the child, everything is tossed out the door because every kid is different. Everyone's parenting style is different. Uh, and now because he's almost 2, he's running, he's really super active. And my family, my niece and nephew, none of them were that active. And my son, he's super, super active. So he's really tired. That infant stage, I love it where I'm holding him in my arms. That's it. I don't have to chase after him. I'm just feeding him milk, changing diaper. Now he's a picky eater, trying to figure out what he will eat. Even when you're doing activities, you have to find a kid friendly place. It's just changing your life. Even looking at work style. Before when I'm working, I want a higher pay, but now I see things differently. I want flexibility. I want more time with my kid. Like it's just changed my whole life.
I know quite distinctly everything you're talking about.
Yes.
I can no longer just pick up my kid when he's out of, I've got a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. So they're still amazingly cuddly and deeply attached. But I'm very nostalgic for it. And like you, I don't know how intent you were in having another child before you embarked. But my husband and I also, like you, did an existing embryo plan after we had remaining embryos, and it's like a lot of things in surrogacy. There's so many things you get surprised by in terms of what you want, what you don't want, what you think you wanted, and actually you no longer want. And you're speaking to it so beautifully about how you change necessarily. None of this is like fixed. You become a different person, not simply obviously by becoming a parent, but the surrogacy journey itself, it not only tests you, it broadens you. At least, I'm speaking for myself, but how you become really a more expansive person. Not to say that, people doing this aren't wonderful and expansive to begin with, but I think surrogacy uniquely, because of the pressure it puts on folks, the patience it exacts, it all lends to what not only truly ends up to be a joyous experience, but a very rich and layered one. And by joyous and rich and layered, I mean, it's not all happy, it's not all sad, it's very complex and human. And ultimately, I want to say almost transcendent. I'm biased, obviously, but what is having a kid other than the most transcendent thing you can do in a way? And surrogacy, and it sounds like with you, and continues. I'm nostalgic for having a second journey, although at this point I'm not in the game. To wait.
I'm surprised too. I'm surprised that
Yeah.
I thought I was just gonna want to have one, but then after seeing him, I cannot. I work, right? We all work. We all have a life. I cannot give my full attention 24/7 with him. And sometimes when I look at him, I'm like, oh, I wish he had a sibling to play with. And that's the reason why I went to a second journey. It's for him, not for me.
Yeah. Right.
So we've actually have changed everybody's status so that they can talk.
Oh, wonderful.
So if you have any questions that you want to ask either John Liu or John Moses or I or any of our
Yeah, I think
case
are we at
managers.
that point? First of all, I want to let me just, John. I can't thank you enough for showing up today. We really, because Moo, as we mentioned, who is going to be here, unfortunately had a death in his family. So John just stepping in last minute from the West Coast. We really just thank you so much.
You saved us. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's fine. So next, we'll have him with us when he has his second child, and that's for the next part. But yeah, this is great. It sounds like it's a small group, so we can probably, is that why? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
that's why I opened.
Okay, good. So yeah, anyone wants to chime in and ask questions? We probably have another about 5 minutes or so before we should probably wrap up. And
Yeah, feel free to unmute
You
yourself,
can
raise your
unmute
hand and ask either.
you don't have to show your face if you don't want to, or you can just put in the chat, whatever you might want to do. So.
Do we have any questions that they've asked so far? No
No
questions?
questions. No questions.
Okay, well,
What?
that's a good sign. We've been comprehensive,
They're
we've
like-
been very comprehensive.
Does anyone want to give someone a minute just to maybe think of a
I think
question?
Caleb is
Oh.
gonna chime in. Go ahead, Caleb.
Oh.
Oh, I think he might be muted. We can't hear you.
Do we need to?
Oh, he's unmuted, but we just can't hear him.
Okay.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me now?
Oh,
We
there
got
you
you.
are.
Fine.
Hello. I was just going to ask you to put up the QR codes back into the chat so I can schedule a
Yes.
consultation.
Very well. Let me get there. They're on the screen now. Does that work for you?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Of course, my pleasure.
So Eder said that he
Yeah. I'm ready.
thanks us and he will be setting a consultation soon.
Thank you very much, Eder. Looking forward to meeting you
Likewise, yeah.
and getting a chance to help you make this decision.
Yeah.
Anyone
Anyone else? Someone named Yuval? Michael? Is it? I don't know if it's the Michael Harris I know. If that's Michael. Hi, Michael. I don't know.
While we wait, do we have any plans of a future webinars? Or
Yeah.
be able to invite people or how to access the recording?
Sure.
Yes. Is there a way that people can access this recording?
The recording will be shared with all attendees and everybody that was invited via an email, as well as we will send you a follow-up email so that you can fill out a quick survey if you so choose as to what was useful in this. So we're always looking to improve it for the next round. And
Yeah.
our next round will be October 4th.
Yeah, we'll be doing another general info webinar.
So if you've got any friends,
Yeah.
feel free to send them our way.
Yeah.
And we'll be more than happy to provide either a one-to-one consultation or they can attend the next webinar on October
Yeah.
4th.
We're doing a general info on October 4th and then again on December 11th, whatever
11th.
that's, yeah,
Yeah.
second Saturday of December. And it's funny because as we move through these webinars, maybe we'll start tailoring them to maybe focus, maybe not on the whole kit and caboodle. Maybe we'll talk about guarantee plans. We're still determining on a webinar by webinar basis what the agenda will, but generally the general info webinars are to provide as much information as we can to people coming to us possibly for the first time, maybe people who are trying to, make decisions. So it's great. Anyway,
So yeah, if you guys don't have any more questions, it was truly a pleasure. Thank you for your time and your attention.
thank you very much, everyone who attended. Yes. And we hope to
Thank
see
you,
soon.
John, for helping us today and sharing your wonderful journey. And we look forward to sharing your second journey whenever we get that next bundle of joy.
John, yes, thank you. Anyway, to be continued with John and hopefully everyone else.
Hey.
Happy Saturday, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.